Come on. Let's go. Come on, buddy boy. Let's go. Come on. Break time, video time, and bad goat time. These little shitheads. They are no different than bad kids, bad little kids. They know they're bad, they know what they're not supposed to do, but they just terrorize and torment you anyway. I had some fiberglass insulation sticking on the wall here. And the one little one here rips over, gets a mouthful. It looks like a kid with a mouthful of cotton candy tries running away with it, eat it. And I'm running this thing down like a parent would a little child, wrestling by the neck and jamming my finger down and pulling up this little ball of rolled up insulation she's about to swallow. And then they just came in and did it again around the plug-in outlet. But I'll show you what they're doing right now. Freaking little bastards. They just drive you freaking nuts. It's comical. Little shitheads. Looking for something to get into. Anything at all. Well, somebody's gonna lay down and have a little rest and hang out and listen to the emails. Come on, lay down. There you go. Alright, now be quiet and be good. Alright. So, lots of voices in line. Lots of emails coming in, lots of opinions coming in. No shortage of anger. Man, there's no shortage of anger today. Holy cow, I had to go to the local construction supply place and it's almost like, I don't know what's going on in there, but it wasn't good. Bunch of very angry people, even though it's Friday. It's like, come on you guys, it's Friday. Anyway. Taking a break, got my gutters hung on the outside of this barn finally, thank God. Just beat the rain, starting to rain. So I'm going to take a break, get a bunch of you heard, and then I'm going to hibernate in here and get these walls completely done. And I'm going to go on a road trip. Now what do we got? Listen to this one. We'll start off with this one marked as red. Vocal Encounter is the title of this email. Good day, Steve. First, I want to thank you for how and what you do on your channel. What a godsend it is for anyone to be able to release and tell all their encounter stories without biased opinions. I was encouraged to tell you mine by the two means. By listening to so many people writing to you telling their encounters and your unparalleled support when reading them. And after my encounter, I sought for answers by many people I know from my area, including a friend of mine that he says he knows you personally. And had actually said to me that he encouraged you to start your channel on this subject. We'll call him Chad D, a well-respected and avid outdoorsman / hunting guide from the East Kootenays. I hope you can confirm this. He speaks very highly of you. Thanks for the kind words, you guys. I'm gonna keep reading. You may use my name if you wish. I have nothing to blanket and not wish to. I speak freely, telling my story to whomever will listen. It does amaze me still, telling my story to people and stories replied back by them, but they're too afraid of ridicule to step up and announce publicly or speak out. My wife and I are not, and here's our story. Perfect. Obviously more and more people are coming around, and more people are brave, and the people who want to live in a fantasy world are unfortunately having to face the honest truth. Don't touch that tripod or I'll barbecue you. My wife and I were hunting elk just north of Joffre, BC, which is a half an hour from the Montana/BC Roosevelt border crossing. We were in an area where we frequent every year, knowing that the elk are usually there. A late afternoon hunt, we pulled onto a semi-grown inside road off one of the back roads. No other hunters / vehicles were around. Nice reprieve after seeing so many elsewhere. Hold on a second. Get out of there! Go! Somehow they seem to think they want to eat tar paper too. Our truck is very quiet in the bush, and the side of the road had no gravel or rocks to create the tire noise. About 200 meters in, my wife stopped the truck and pointed at the small berm on her side, saying that something had just walked into the bush as the grasses were popping back up where they were stepped on. She took note and spoke of the large size of each print made, but could not determine the actual size. They were just very large. My wife is a good tracker and takes note of these things. She suggested to me that a large bear must be in the area. We carried on slowly for about another 200 meters and stopped the truck, turned it off, and sat in silence listening for about 5 minutes. It was very quiet. She then pointed to a well-used animal trail to her left, leading into some very dense bush, but also knowing that an extremely high rock wall was only 50 meters past it. She then suggested that I do an elk bugle to see if we get a return call, and I agreed. I got out of the truck as quietly as I could, walked around to the other side of the truck by her door, took a deep breath, and blew my bugle with a short chuckle at the end. Personally, I thought it sounded pretty good. Almost immediately after I was done, we got a return call, but it was not an elk. It tried to mimic my call like an elk, but it did a crappy job of it. It even tried the chuckle at the end like I did, and that was poorly done as well. The call that was returned was intense, and only about 30 meters away. We could actually feel it in the air. The tones were clear and unbelievably strong. There was no raspy sound to them, scaling up and back down, or even in the chuckle. The volume of air that would have taken to produce what we heard, we could not fathom. Being in the bush all our lives and also being professional wildlife photographers, we both agreed later that there is not an animal that we know of that could produce that much volume of air to create that call. Not even a bull / cow moose in the rut. As soon as the return call was made, my wife and I both looked at each other completely startled and both said at the same time, "What the F was that?" I'm not one afraid in the bush, but I shook. She told me to get the F in the truck and not hesitate. We sat in the truck for 15 minutes without saying another word, just looked at each other. We didn't know what to say. We sat for another 15 minutes talking, trying to determine determine what it was that we heard. We both agreed it was nothing we had ever heard before, and that it could only be one thing. We just had to come to terms with it, and that did not take long. I called up my friend Chad D one day, knowing that he spends all his time in very remote BC hunting and guiding, and asked him if he believes in Bigfoot. He laughed at me. I was taken back a moment, and then he informed me that he's seen them all the time. In fact, he's had many encounters, and he said he is used to them following him in the bush. It doesn't even bother him anymore. Only once he stated that he was threatened by one to the point he ran back to his truck and left the area. He informed me that like humans, Bigfoot have different personalities. Some curious, some timid, some aggressive, and he told me that ours was a jokester by mimicking my elk call. I learned a lot from our phone call, as I am learning more and more from your channel, Steve. Thank you so much for what you're doing and tell our story. Please stay safe out there. Your faithful followers, Stephen and Brendy Jolie from Elkford, British Columbia. All right, thanks for that. I'm not coming up with Chad's name off the top of my head. Obviously, it's just a first name and initial. You know what you heard. You know what you heard. I tell that to everybody this channel is not marketed in any way. I've never even shared this channel on any social media pages ever of mine, ever. Yeah, except when they were hunting theme only, I did. But get away from that tripod. You become meatballs. You are the one that cost me $1,600 already. You little shit. Get out of here. So anyway, I think guiding. Who knows? I probably know who he is. We spoke to so many people that are hunters in this province and around the globe. But I do not recall anybody encouraging me to start a Sasquatch specific channel, to be honest. I only had that one moment while I was making videos to promote my hunting apps and share hunting knowledge, and people were just pummeling on me non-stop. Come on, man, you gotta have a Sasquatch story. And then I was just thinking about all the people that I knew who had seen them. I thought about all the people that I had spoken to when I was intentionally looking for them after I had already seen them. And it was always a common theme, right? Everybody's too insecure to ridicule. Everybody's scared of each other. So then I finally just had that, I don't know why it took so long, but I just had that vision of that man, that great man, climbing in that bomber to fly into Germany and drop bombs over top of those evil Nazi bastards to save everybody's ass here, and he died scared of the same people he did that for. And that's when I got pissed off, and I came out publicly and said, yeah, I know about them, I've seen them, and if you don't like it, ram it up your ass. And I came out swinging, right, because I was also familiar with the embarrassing shit show that had been going on for years. I'm repeating my story, I know, I'm sorry. So anyways, and that was when I also realized how many people there were out there who needed somebody to have their back and probably needed to get this shit up their chest. So I just all of a sudden in one video said, hey, you got something you want to share and get up your chest, send it my way, I'll share it for you, I don't give a shit, I got your back, man. Send it over. And that's how this started. That's exactly how this started to where we are today. No other way, no other outside influence, there was no influence to do this. That is exactly how it started. And then I got absolutely pummeled with emails to the point I'm like, holy shit, okay, I better open up another email for these people. And that's when I started. Which one did I make first? Sharemystory, outta.com, and then that got full. And just like that. And then I was getting a hold of the people who host my domain name. Is that the right term for it? Very poor choice. But that's where it was hosted when I bought it, howtohunt.com. And they were having glitches, so they couldn't make me another email address yet. And no, they couldn't sell me more space than that email because they had a glitch. I'm like, well, shit. So I ended up making another secondary email for everybody to email in while the other one was getting sorted out. And that's when Tell My Story at howtohunt.com came in. And then finally I got more storage purchased on the other one. And here we are. I think. I stopped counting. It doesn't even make sense to count the emails, but I think it's possibly, if it isn't 20,000 emails have come into those emails, out of my Pro Guide 66 email, it's pushing 20,000 now. It's amazing. So there. But anyway, thank you for your email. And I think one time I went to the Kootenays to help on a grizzly bear hunt years ago, and I was above, what's the name of that lake? Arrow Lake, Swan Lake or something? I forget. Anyway, near the cusp. Anyway, saw a few grizzlies there too. Actually had an unnerving experience there. I was sitting there with this dude. I think I had a rifle, but we're sitting on an open slope, big timber there too. And springtime, he had the tag, and we're gonna have lunch, sunny out, and I inched down the bank a little bit. So now I'm about, I don't know, 30 yards away from my gun and my backpack and shit, got a sandwich sitting there, and all of a sudden 2 3-year-old cubs come feeding up the slope, and they're right there. I'm like, oh shit, because just waiting for mom to come next, and I'm already too far from the gun. And if she comes up and sees me and decides they are too far from trees and cover, she's gonna come and give me an ass whooping. So, and all that thought goes through your brain in about, I don't know, 3/4 of a second, thinking, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Then you sit there, and no mom came in there by themselves. So I guess it was part of the first springtime that those cubs had got kicked away from her as she went into the rut with the big boars again. But anyway, that's the only time I hunt around your neck of the woods. But I do know there is a very, very large amount of sightings in the Kootenays. Huge. It's non-stop. And like I said before, and what everybody's explained to us clearly on this channel is where there's elk, there's Sasquatch sightings. predominantly much more than your typical other places. And I've always known for years, as probably you guys have too, where there's elk, there's grizzly bears. They go hand in hand, exact same terrain. They love it. So, but it seems that there is far more elk hunters have experience with these beings than, say, deer hunters or moose hunters, if you were to poll the hunters. David Plaitis also pointed that out, that there is far more weird things go on, aside from that topic, with elk hunters and where there's elk. And these are extremely bizarre, other bizarre topics that Dave Plaitis is investigating. So anyway, keep that in the back of your head the next time you go remote and drop an elk. Pack it out as fast as you can, right? You don't want to get that thing snatched up. So funny, one goat lays down and the smaller one comes and stands in your thigh like this because it wants to be held up, picked up and held. Come here. There you go. Feel better? Look at the camera and say hello to everybody. Say hi. I'm the most annoying goatee in the world. Little shit. Loves pink insulation like it's cotton candy. Okay, beat it. Okay, moving along. Let's get some more voices heard. And then she jumps back up on my leg. Okay, Mark, this is red. Dogman, Bigfoot, and Orbs. It's the title of this email. Resending is I don't think you got this. Hi Steve, I love your heart for those that have had bizarre experiences. I'm one of those and have shared with very few people for obvious reasons. I had an encounter in 1980 of a possible Bigfoot with orbs while camping in the woods in Ohio. I was dropped off my gear out of rural northern Ohio. The area is predominantly farmland with small woods every few miles. There are tractor lanes in between the farmland and are used by the farmers to get to the land and the woods. Excuse me. I'd gone house some alone time and to just enjoy the woods, so I walked about half down the quarter-mile lane where I felt like I was being watched. Land is very flat and I saw no one. I continued into the woods even though I felt uncomfortable. I'd never camped alone before and chalked it up at that. I set my tent up. It was getting dark and immediately went in due to the hateful mosquitoes. I brought little with me because I just wanted the time with God. I began reading my Bible by flashlight and realized the feeling of being watched was really freaky. I prayed silently, and then I heard the sound of huge branches of trees crashing nearby. What intensified the weirdness was the continuous hum of the mosquitoes stopped. That's frickin' crazy, isn't it? How all this shit goes down, this silence. When shit goes down. More crashing, and then something started rubbing the side of my tent. I didn't smell or hear a sound from whatever it was, but now I am definitely afraid. So now I start commanding whatever this thing is to leave me alone and to stop making me afraid in the name of Jesus. The air seemed to change. No more feeling afraid and no more crashing of trees. After a little while I saw a light flash up in the trees through the tent door. So I scooted up to the door and looked out to see better. Up in what would have been the treetop height was an orb flying around. It looked more like a bouncing ball of light. I watched it for a long time and then it disappeared. I couldn't wait till daylight when my ride would come to pick me up. I left with no more encounters. About 30 years ago, my husband and I were traveling in our large RV. We had been in Killeen, Texas. We were traveling northeast, headed back to Georgia. I'm in the passenger seat and we sit high up like a trucker. I'm looking out the side window, just taking in the landscape. I see a figure up ahead in the field standing behind a very large fallen tree. It's black and large. I think to myself that it doesn't look like anything I've ever seen. As we get closer, I see that it looks like a huge dog standing with its hands resting on the tree, watching the traffic go by. When we get parallel with it, it looks right in my eyes. And those are not dog eyes. I start shouting at my husband to turn around. Well, with our size rig pulling a car, it wasn't possible. That being was acting human, but looking like a dog, sort of. Sorry this is so long, but I need to unload this. I was grateful to find others who have had similar experiences. My husband believed me, and that definitely helped. Thank you again, Donna. Donna, tell your husband he's a good man. All right? If he can't believe you, he's got nothing, he's got nobody. So good one. We all love hearing that, especially. All right, the Dogman thing. We will be receiving news on those things. So unfortunately, they are real. It took me a while to accept it, I'll admit it, but I keep my own thoughts, my own stance on certain numerous topics. I keep them to myself because when it comes down to it, it shouldn't matter to all of you what I believe or not. It should never matter, right? What we need here is fair crack at all of the knowledge we can get in and absorb from as many different people as we can who have seen shit firsthand or not. Obviously, there's going to be some bullshitters out there, but bullshitters are harmless to us, right? Because they will come and they will go maybe once or even twice, who knows? But your intuition, if you're in tune with it, will override the bullshitters very easily. And that allows you to choose what you will take from or leave from all of these people communicating with us, right? And the fact of the matter is, for anybody who may possibly complain about somebody might be a bullshitter, there's too many lies coming in. You are being absolutely lied to your face every single day by every single major news outlet, every single politician, every single school classroom has been lying to you in some form or another every single day of your existence, okay? So, knowing that, like I said earlier, that only leaves us with each other, the people, okay? Obviously we're gonna get the odd bad apple in here, but on average, I believe, for the most part, we have nothing but good information coming in here. How did I get off track there? I'm getting a little off track. So what I'm saying about the Dogman thing, it took me a little while to accept it because I personally have not seen anything like that. In all my travels, remote BC, and all the people I have met and talked to, I had never previously met anyone who claimed to have seen something that looked like a huge 8 or 9 foot tall, muscular, hair-covered being with a dog's head. Right? That's just a little bit much for your average brain to wrap around. But I'm no dummy. When you get thousands of people around North America who have the same description, you better, unfortunately, start accepting that it is quite real. But anyway, what I'm getting at is the Dogman thing. From what I have learned, and we will be learning a lot more about that specific being soon, all right? And from what I have gathered, there is nothing good about those beings. And from what I have learned, I do now have the confidence to share with you how I do feel about that one topic, and how I feel about those things is, and my gut has said the same ever since I was forced to accept the reality of this shit, those things, is they're not good. Period. So, I did stay for, look out for that cord, you little shit. But I did share earlier that if I have said, in all honesty, just for me personally, I'm out in the woods, I'm in the middle of nowhere, I'm a 2-3 hour hike away from my vehicle in big timber where there's no roads or trails or human beings, and I see something 8 or 9 feet tall with a wolf's head on it, and it's locking its eyes on me, which we all know in prey-predator world, eyes locked on is very bad juju when it comes to body language. It's the worst thing you can do, right? So, I'm putting holes in it. I'm not even asking any questions. I'm putting holes in it. And I'm going to put as many holes as I can right between its eyes if I can, and I'm not going to stop. And that's my stance on those dog-man-like beings. But anyway, thanks for sending that in. You're not alone. You're not the only one who's seen these things. You little shit. Leave the tar paper alone. All as it takes off with it and smoke. Down here. Yeah. Anyway. Little bastards. Thanks for sending that in. Appreciate it. At least, good thing is, you know you're not alone, right? You're not alone here. Nobody's alone here. All right. Somebody's emailed us from the other side of the planet. This is titled Sasquatch Stories from India. Hey, brother. I've not seen Sasquatch, but I've been told by devotees of Shiva Temple in the Himalayas of their experiences that I thought you'd find interesting. These people's honesty is beyond question. The temple was set up in the Hadyakan, opposite Kailash Mountain, a well-known, venerated place of strange events. Let's just say that. Basanti Devil, an Italian devotee, told me, Basanti Devi, an Italian devotee, told me of her experience. She was making the trek to the temple along the banks of the Gautama Ganga River with her small son. Within this 1 to 2 hour walk, she noticed movement on the opposite bank. Then she clearly saw them, a line of large hairy beings walking in formation. There were 2 very large ones in the front, 3 smaller ones at the back, and 3 very small ones between them in the middle. Some glanced over at her, and after keeping up with them for about a half an hour, the large male at the front made a sound like you might hear in the military, a lower, then higher pitch. Then they all turned in unison away from the riverbed and marched into the forest. Holy shit! That must have been absolutely something else to see. The second account is of a female devotee who awakened before the sun rose. The moon was bright, and so she decided to walk around the temple. To her surprise, she saw down below the temple a group of large hairy beings dancing around a fire on the riverbed. She couldn't see detail as the distance was about 300 to 500 meters, but they were definitely not human or any kind of animal. Later that morning, she asked Babaji, the master of the temple, what she'd seen, and he said, "You weren't supposed to see that," and left it at there. Nothing more was said. Just as an additional gift, I'll share one of many bizarre accounts with animals. Basanti Devi again. She was walking down the 108 steps to the river, and just above her in a tree, she saw a huge black puma-type cat. It jumped down right in front of her, and she said out loud, "Are you going to eat me now?" Her words. Then it rolled on its back, showed her its belly, and was purring like a kitten. She said that, strangely, she had no fear, and this is probably because she knew that nothing would happen unless her beloved Babaji preordained it. Such was the caliber of this lady. I have no doubt these accounts are true and correct. There is no reason I can imagine why these lovers of God would tell lies. As said, they are above that nonsense, and in any case, taken from my perspective, they wouldn't dare to do self-harm by lying. I don't expect you to read this out, but do feel free. I don't expect anything, but I'm happy you have heard these accounts. To me, they tell me a lot about these ancient beings. One last point. Avatar Meher Baba was once asked a question I don't exactly remember, and he replied, "There are 5 major races on this planet, and one of them is the original." For years, I thought he was referring to blacks, whites, red, yellow, and Asiatics, blacks being the original. I now am convinced he was giving a clue to other previous unknown races. I suspect it is hominids, Sasquatch, humans, Nordics, large greys, and reptilians. Perhaps the mantids are in there somewhere, Sasquatch being the original. If this is correct, then we were likely genetically molded from Sasquatch DNA, as Lloyd Pye stated 230,000 years ago, proven from analyzing the mitochondrial DNA. He also stated that he suspected Sasquatch as being here unchanged for millions of years, which rhymes with Meher Baba's information. One is the original. All the best to you and blessings of joy and insight. Jamie, Tipperary Mountains, Ireland. Well, holy shit, Jamie, that's pretty cool to hear from the people in India, and it sounds like they are quite connected with their culture, their background, their beliefs. And let's face it, that's something else. You just wake up in the morning and think, well, what should we make up today? Right? Very interesting. And when you say you don't expect me to share it, if you email me, expect it to be shared. All right? We all get a chance to be listened to. I heard some big wings fly by. All right, chickens have been getting picked off lately. What else do we got? All right, what else we got? Close encounter, big question. Oh, big question mark. Steve, many thanks for all your efforts. I appreciate it many, by many. Excuse me, that's 8. What's new, right? A little background on myself. Retired military with 26 years of service in the U.S. Army, including 2 tours of Vietnam. I'm 75 years old and I've been an avid hunter and fisherman all my life. I've been a faithful follower of howtohunt.com for over a year and know more today than I ever thought possible through your efforts and input with hundreds and thousands of followers. I'd like to share what I consider my encounter with what may have been a savage. The term I feel is more respectful than Bigfoot when speaking about these things. Completely agree, and thank you so much for your kind words. During the mid-70s, my family and I were living in the Midlands of South Carolina, and my extended family owned several hundred acres of woodlands adjacent to the Wateree River. Nothing when compared to your neck of the woods. In the early fall of '76, I was hunting squirrels on the property, walking about a quarter of a mile into the bottom section of white oaks I knew held many bushtails. I was sitting against a large hardwood tree in the afternoon when there came a piercing, high-pitched scream, followed by a drawn-out growl about 100 yards into the dense woods. Alert. After 10 to 20 minutes passed, another scream that seemed much closer made my neck hair stand up. I felt that something ominous was approaching the spot where I was sitting. I picked up the 3 squirrels that I had harvested and proceeded to beat feet back to my car and a 32-mile drive home to my wife and 2 daughters. Until connecting with you and the others providing you with input, I always thought of the incident as being the product of an extremely angry bobcat. But that area of the property is now called the Spooky Woods. And I've never returned to that particular location to hunt. Steve, again, thank you for all you do for the people. We love and respect you. Appreciate you, man. Absolutely appreciate you taking your time to share. Obviously, this channel's by all of you, man. I'm the messenger. This channel's nothing without everybody coming forward with their knowledge. What a powerhouse it's turned into, right? It's just such an awesome example, this channel, of the power of good people coming together. There's nothing more powerful, except unless somebody figures out how to take all of that power from the people and use it against them. Then shit goes sideways, like it is right now in many places of the planet. Anyway, thanks for sending that in, man. And then about the squirrels, it's funny. For me, we got these little squirrels up here. I don't even know what their official name is, but these little brown bastards. Never thought too much about hunting them, eating them ever. And it's funny how many people I met over the years of guiding, and I obviously soon come to realize just how big squirrel hunting is in the United States and many of the states down south from us. And I got a fun story, which reminds me, squirrel hunters, passionate squirrel hunters. And I haven't tried eating them myself yet. I would, of course, but I just haven't had the opportunity yet. So I'm guiding this guy. He's from West Virginia. And I called up, I don't know how many bulls, we called up a lot of bull elk to him. I only got a 10-day hunt where I was guiding at that time, and for elk. And he missed a big hammer 6x6, unfortunately, 3 or 4 times. And then what else? I called up about 3 or 4 bull moose into him, and what happened? I called up a big moose. I think it was like a 58-inch bull. I got the picture somewhere. He drops that. That made the hunt right there. And then I took him to another spot, and if he did not get the largest elk shot in all the outfits up north for I think it won the award at the Northern BC Guide Association banquet or something. Huge bull for up there. 340 bull and 340 something bull, which is pretty big for Northern BC for antler department. And so there you go. He had tons of exciting experiences, called in lots of big bulls right to his face, lots of adrenaline. Probably like the package deal hunt you could ask for. And I said to him at the end, I go, so what do you think? What's your favorite game animal to hunt? And this is his answer. And he said, this is before I quite realized how big squirrel hunting was. And he goes, well, you know, I really love shooting that elk and all, and I bet that big bull moose is really something else, man. But, man, I love my squirrel hunting. I'm kind of like, huh? You know, here I am, surrounded by stone sheep, mountain goat, grizzly bear, wolves, elk, monster mule deer, whitetail, moose, caribou, you know? Basically, and probably the majority of all hunters' fantasy is to hunt this listed game in the Northern Rockies. And this guy did it all with me, and all of a sudden, but he was more passionate and more excited when he talked about hunting squirrels. That's pretty cool. Sorry about that little blurb, you guys. And anyway, all right, moving along. Thanks for sending that in, man. Absolutely appreciate it. The spooky woods. There's no shortage of them around here. There's a lake just up the road called the Devil's Lair Lake. Gee, I wonder where that got its name, right? And it's right beside with our native friend that ran into me by the river. Said there's a female and its young one right around there for a long time. Anyway, how close can you sneak up on one? Steve, I sent you a story before, but I hadn't told everything, so here I go. I was hiking up into a bowl I loved to hunt because it held a nice herd of bachelor bucks. On the way into this area that is wooded, but there is no undergrowth. Oh, sorry, screwed up in that sentence. On the way into this area that is wooded, but there is no undergrowth, so it's pretty clear viewing of most of the game trails. Off to my right, there is a stand of what I refer to as Christmas trees. Okay, no periods or commas. There might be one at the bottom. When I caught movement about 15 yards away to my right, 15 is frickin' close. And as I got a glimpse of a brown-haired animal, but it wasn't a bear, because I've been close to those and they just mow everything down in their path. But this animal left only branches swaying, no footprints, only some bent grass. I thought it was something sunning itself and proceeded on my hunt again. I was just 21. I didn't fear a thing, as I do believe I was using my 25-06 at the time. I now look back and realize that I was very lucky or very stupid. But at that time I felt no safety concern or threat. But now after listening to others, I think I was just plain lucky. And maybe I spooked what was ever there, making them be the one to flee. Let me read that one more time. Listening to others, I think I was just plain lucky, and maybe I spooked what was ever there, making them to be the one to flee. All right. Keep up the good work, and I hope I can meet you one day. Forrest. P.S. I wonder if anyone here has ever found game hung or just pried up off the ground. I've found where the mountain lions bury their kills, but on one occasion I found a couple of what looked like the rest of the deer, some heavy brush off the ground. Okay, Forrest, this is what I know. Cougars don't drag their kills up off the ground, they bury it sparsely. I've gone down this list a handful of times before. I've watched black bear actually snap limbs off Christmas trees and drag them over and put them over top of my leftovers of a kill and sit by it. Obviously, grizzly bears will rototilt up a frickin' beaver dam-sized mound of dirt over top of whatever they are killing and eating. And what else? Wolves shred. A wolf kill on anything looks like something went through a wood chipper, to put it plainly. And same with wild dogs. Wild dogs absolutely annihilate everything, and everything's shredded in a million different pieces. But here in North America, no. They don't put their stuff up off the ground in trees. These goofy kids will tell you what, it's just a frickin' comedy show. Non-stop comedy, these little bastards. Okay, this is titled Believer. Hi Steve, you can share my name. I don't care what other people think. That is why this country is in turmoil. It's because everyone is worried about hurting people's feelings. Back on the subject. My name is Michael Nation. I have two sons that I always brought hunting with me. When they were little, they would always ask if there was Sabe where we hunted because they saw those goofy TV programs about them. We hunted in Newton County, Texas. I don't know if there's been any reports around this area or not. I'd like to know, but I can't find any online. We are the farthest southeast of Texas as you can go. It is pine thickets, river bottoms, and swamps. I would always tell them no because I didn't want them to be scared. As for me, I was always on the fence about the topic, but more on the non-believer side. But I always would sit in the stand and think, there's no way us humans are the only beings on this planet. As I get older and hearing the stories and watching videos about the Sabe, I became more on the believer side of the fence. I'm 48 now, my sons are 19 and 15. When I ask them about Sabe, they just give me that, "Dad, are you for real?" look. I just shake my head and walk away. I've been binge watching your videos and I'm a true believer now, but I've never had an encounter that I can think of. This is for the non-believers. There is no way in hell that thousands of people across the world is imagining the same thing. I had a lot of questions and the people sending in their experiences have answered I've had a lot of questions and the people sending in their experiences have answered most of them. Shout out to the Owl Man. Please keep sending emails, man. I'm on the edge of my seat every time Steve reads one of your emails. Thank you for what you do, Steve. People's voices need to be heard. Thanks from a believer, Michael Nation. Michael, thank God for your common sense stance. We need more men like you here, and women, and children. We'll leave it up to you how you're going to do with your boys and tell them about what's really going on out there. I guess possibly even send them some of the more impactful videos we have here, possibly. And at least they can give them a little bit of a kickstart into gaining knowledge, right? What else do we got? Oh, I gotta watch the new ones at the top. I feel bad when I do the new ones in a way like I did yesterday, but because I skip out on so many people that are waiting. That have been waiting. Alright, this is titled Biologist/Teacher. Hello, Steve. You may share my name. My name is Steve Weinbau. I'm a 58-year-old man from East Texas with a degree in biology and taught science for almost 20 years. When I was young, a video game was something you had to drive 10 miles to with a pocket full of quarters. So we spent our time in the woods hunting and fishing along the creeks. When I grew up, I went to university and earned a degree in biology with a science composite and a 2-year certification to become a teacher. I concentrated my studies towards vertebrate biology. I studied every vertebrate in Texas, from amphibians to reptiles to mammals. I had to learn every habitat, characteristics, call, sign, track, and behavior of every vertebrate in Texas. They even had to be able to identify different frog calls from a pond. Other than the scientific names, mammals were easy. I knew it all from my experiences as a youth. I have a cop friend that lives near a lake next to Lake Caddo in East Texas along the Texas/Louisiana border. Lake Caddo is the only natural lake in Texas. Picture huge cypress trees, Spanish moss, surrounded by swampland. My buddy has 90 acres, and we would hunt the back 40 acres. I hunted out of a tree platform that wasn't in the best shape, and the owner was concerned that it would collapse. I'm 6'7", 340 pounds. You are a waxed Sasquatch. Just kidding, man. 6'7", 340. Jesus. At the time, and disabled. Oh, that's unfortunate. I was comfortable with the stand, and it was some of the best hunting I ever did. I averaged a whitetail every 4 hunts, always tagged out. In 2013, I started my season there, but my buddy told me the stand was destroyed. I thought this was odd, and maybe they were concerned I would be injured, especially since I'm disabled. My buddy built me a box stand and set it backed up to the 6-foot-tall reed grass overlooking the field. My son also had a box stand about 100 yards from me. We hunted the whole season without seeing one deer. This was odd to me, along with the destroyed stand. Toward the end of the season, we had an experience that could not be explained. It had to be a Sasquatch. I was sitting in my stand when the loudest call I've ever heard vibrated through my body. It was not a growl or a scream, it was a call. It started so low in pitch, loud that I felt it in my guts, even though the sound wave had to travel through a sheet of plywood. A sound has to be lower than 20 hertz to affect the human body. The call was 6 or 7 short bursts going from a low to high pitch, then repeated. I froze in place. I felt sick and terrified. There's no other animal in the world that could do this. It was as loud as a dinosaur. Immediately my walkie-talkie went off. My son said, "What was that?" Then answered himself saying, "Bigfoot." Before I could answer, I replied, "Yes." Then he said, "Come and get me. It is close." He was 100 yards away. It was right outside my stand. I stood, sick and frozen. If not for my son, I might not have ever left that stand. I stood, facing the door with my 30-06, off safety, at my hips, staring at the door. I couldn't bring myself to open the door for what seemed to be a long time, but it was probably only minutes. Minutes are a long time in these experiences. I had to get to my son. I kicked the door open. I kicked the door to open it, and to my horror, it only opened about 4 inches. The tall reed grass prevented it from opening. I had to squeeze out of the door. First my shoulder, then my head, followed by my rifle. There was nothing there. I hurriedly stumbled to the four-wheeler, got on with my rifle in my left hand laying across the handlebars. Got on with my rifle in my left hand laying across the handlebars and proceeded down the trail with my scoped rifle banging up and down because the hogs rooted up the ground. I didn't care if I knocked my scope off the side at all. On each side of the trail was 6-foot high reed grass. I was terrified. I made it to my son's stand, but he was not in it. He was on one knee in the middle of the field with his 30-30 scanning the surrounding area. I killed the four-wheeler and we spoke for a minute. As we talked about what happened, I heard another call, but it seemed to be miles away. We headed to my buddy's house, 30-06 facing forward, 30-30 facing behind. We got to the house and I told my buddy and he laughed. Guess I'm a liar. That's how I feel when someone laughs at my story, and most of my teacher friends did this. I often talk about Sasquatch with my students, and my story spread quickly. I was surprised I didn't get a parent phone call, but I was asked where Bigfoot was in my curriculum. Being a biologist, I'm not supposed to believe in Bigfoot. I'm not a believer, I'm a knower. The following week, my buddy told me to watch the next episode of Sunday Morning on CBS, and I did. They had a story about a Bigfoot convention in the city of Jefferson, the closest town to where I was at, and this was proof to me. Years later, I jumped down the Bigfoot rabbit hole. I heard a sound on YouTube that matched what I heard. About a year ago, I was watching one of the corny Bigfoot shows. I call it Fat Old Men with Beards and Guns. Showed a map of Bigfoot sightings with little red dots showing the sightings. The area I hunted was a big red blob. This is all the evidence I needed, but I'm still laughed at. My students know I wouldn't lie to them. I tell this story because I want the people to know. I wouldn't be doing my job as a biologist if I kept this quiet. Why is something like this being covered up, Steve? I think we're going to slowly reveal that. I'm confident we're going to slowly reveal that as more of the new contacts I have are going to be sharing a lot more with us, because they are basically dealing with the people directly that have made it taboo for all of us to have the knowledge that they have, although all they are is equal human beings and nothing more and nothing less. But anyway, I think one of these ghosts is sleeping standing up. I'll swing the camera in a minute. Thanks for coming forward, man. And possibly, it may be an idea to pick, I don't know what, I haven't a clue what video from the library here from all of you would have the most impact on a group of people. Or maybe there's another channel out there who has similar delivery and experiences. I don't know. But it may be an idea to possibly one day suggest to your class to watch a handful of these videos. The style video or videos from this channel, whatever you feel may be best. And that will help them get pushed in the right direction of seeking true knowledge. right? And it's only fair that all those students get to have the equal crack at deciding where they want to go or not next weekend with the girlfriend or the kids or whoever, right? They deserve a crack at knowing what happened there or what is happening in that area today or last week, right? But anyway, I gotta get going. I think I've been here long enough. Let's have a look at these two clowns. The one on the right has just been standing there, frozen in place. Oh, now she's moving. It's funny how content they are to hang out with humans, you know? Right? Isn't it? Oh. No? Yeah? Just gotta hang out, right? Hang out. If I leave, they're gonna leave. Goofy little buggers. Anyway. Everybody have a good weekend. Anyway, have a good weekend out there, and if you have anything you need to get off your chest that'll help you out, or if you have something you can share that'll help somebody else out, then get it into us at sharemystory@howtohunt.com, and we'll get it out. We'll get it out. Nobody's alone anymore, and it's actually quite normal now to share all this shit, right? Anyway, here we go. Getting on with the inside of this barn. Get my shit done.